Hi everyone! The thing that we're going to be talking about today is this device, something you can build anywhere in your world, and all you need to do to teleport to it instantly is find its reference angle, use your F3 screen to find that angle in the sky, and then just look up to confirm the teleportation. And though in this case I just used the machine to teleport from that little glass platform over to here, it really doesn't make a whole lot difference if I have to teleport from here to, say, the Badlands, which are about 3,500 blocks away. All I have to do is just take out my F3 screen, find the angle in the sky, and then just look up. So for today's video, I'm going to walk you through all the details on how it is exactly possible that you can do something like this, as well as how you can build a machine like this for yourself, as well as the very lengthy design process I went to get to here. So let's get straight into the basics of how this works. I'm sure it's fairly common knowledge what an ender pearl stasis chamber is. Essentially a device that you can store an ender pearl in, and the ender pearl can be broken when you want to teleport to that location. Now obviously it isn't super helpful to be able to activate this stasis teleportation chamber right next to it, so you're going to want to be able to trigger it wirelessly from a completely separate location. And there are a lot of ways to accomplish this task, but the way that I think is currently the best right now, that we're going to be talking about today, is mirror receivers. To start off, breezes have a somewhat unknown mechanic where when they shoot breeze charges at you, you can actually deflect them by hitting them. Expectedly, you can see the same kind of behavior happen when you shoot a breeze charge with an arrow. Though it's important to note that the game doesn't actually care about where the arrow is traveling, but rather only cares about where the player is looking when the arrow actually hits it. And if those two things are very different, then you begin to see some unintended side effects. And what that essentially means is if we can build a machine that shoots one of your arrows at a breeze charge at a particular moment, no matter where the player is, the breeze charge will tell us exactly where they're looking. Do this essentially over and over inside of an enclosed chamber, and now you can effectively keep track of where the player is looking at any distance in any dimension. And with that discovery, I quickly put together the mirror receiver, something that does something very similar to what we're going to be talking about today, except only it's very outdated. Today we're going to be talking about the mirror pylon, which, combined with being so much smaller that it can actually fit inside of the frame of its old design, comes with fail-safe mechanisms, more preset angles, a two-factor authentication system, and a great increase in reliability while being able to work on every single difficulty. Let's first talk about how it works. In order to set it up, you need to first put an arrow into the system by going down to the lower level, and dropping an arrow into here. It gets automatically aligned using these pistons into this position where it can actually hit the wind charges. Then you climb up to the top floor, put a pearl into the stasis chamber, and then simply turn it on. Now, let's say if you actually want to teleport to it, you gotta figure out which reference angle it's assigned to. That's determined by which of these 4 preset target blocks you actually put your target block, and since you can spin this machine once for every cardinal direction, there are 16 possible angle configurations, and those all have specific angles that you need to look to activate them. If I want to teleport to one, all I have to do is remember which angle that is, and then find it in the sky. 25, 41.7, and then simply look up to confirm your choice. The angle dissection inside of the machine is really simple. The breeze charge ends up being aligned to be right here in this corner, where it's hit by an arrow. Then it has to thread the needle through one of 4 potential gaps, which I'm using a resource pack, that displays the actual hitboxes of soul sand since you sink into them a little to give a better visualization. But that breeze charge then needs to hit one of these 4 tiny blue triangles to access the target block. The reason why you also have to look up in order to trigger the teleportation is because you actually have to send the breeze charge straight upwards through this channel to hit this target block, which triggers an AND gate, which teleports you to the position. The reason why that was implemented, and it wasn't in the previous design, is because a lot of people expressed concern that having essentially landmines in the upper portion of your vision, that if you accidentally run over them, you'll be randomly teleported to a place you don't want to be, obviously is a little bit inconvenient. So on top of the astronomically low chance of you having to be looking at one of these 4 blue triangles at the exact moment that the machine triggers, you also have to confirm that by looking up. All of which is very unlikely because generally when playing Minecraft you don't actually look up very often. So now that we actually understand how the precise angle of the breeze charge's travel is detected, let's talk about how we get it to be in the same place every single time, on top of this trapdoor here. The way that works is we first allow the breeze charge to see the golem, opening this trapdoor, and then it is able to shoot breeze charges. The way we get the breeze charge to stop in the first place is using powder snow. Powder snow is a really interesting block, because it actually cancels all the velocity of anything inside of it, as you can see by me jumping in here. This doesn't usually apply to projectiles, but when it's being moved by a piston, arrows, breeze charges, all of these things will also stop when they're inside of powder snow. Thus, when this breeze charge shoots this breeze charge through the tripwire hook, it causes this piston down here to move, stopping the breeze charge in its tracks in a fairly reliable location. We can get it to be in the same place every single time by using a series of sticky pistons to align it, if I actually set up the machine properly. Like that. What's interesting about this specific alignment of pistons is that we're able to get this breeze charge to be directly here in the center of this block. And due to the way that arrows work, if we shoot it with an arrow from directly below, at the precise alignment we can actually hit it through this corner, which causes the breeze charge to explode inside of a separate chamber than the arrow. This means that the arrow isn't going to get blasted away randomly, which is how we're actually able to make the machine so much smaller than the previous design. In case you didn't watch the last video, the way we actually prevent the breeze charges from imparting a meaningful velocity onto the arrow is by putting such a large chamber around it that no matter where the breeze charge ends up going, it explodes too far away from the arrow to actually cause any issues. Another new design quirk that we implemented into the tiny frame of this new machine is a failsafe mechanism. There's obviously the very real concern that if you just left this thing running with no actual arrow to actually destroy the breeze charges, then you'd quickly have an issue where breeze charges build up infinitely, and it lags the hell out of your game. The way we get around with this is by putting a small piece of string right here, really hard to see, right where the breeze charges are in. This string is continually updated and observed by this observer that's flashing in red here. As long as this observer keeps firing, indicating that breeze charges are both being added and removed from the system, this sticky piston is going to keep firing. Except the moment some kind of inexplicable failure occurs, like the removal of the arrow, this piston will fire instead of it, since it's now being given the room, and both of them are pushing into the same block. This immediately runs into this piston, which moves the on switch back into the off state, immediately shutting off the machine before anything bad can happen. At most, a couple breeze charges will end up still stuck inside the chamber, which can be very easily removed from the lower section of the machine. The last main upgrade besides the size of the new mirror pylon is the fact that it's infinitely more reliable. The breeze charge alignment system is significantly better and also works on every single difficulty, since breeze charges are actually harder to align on hard difficulty, something that I didn't account for in the previous design. The process of getting to the mirror pylon we actually have today was pretty long and grueling and obviously took a lot of iterations. A lot of working on that happened during a 7-hour stream I did several days ago, so if you want to get a little bit of an insight to how I actually work on things, as well as just listen to me talk about random nonsense for many hours, make sure to go check that out. Info card's in the top right, and also in the description. A couple other tidbits, in case you're having difficulty actually finding the angles in the sky. A person in my server named Conteria made a really neat mod that allows you to actually set up those positions in the sky as little points that you can see when turning on an overlay. The colors are a bit messed up now and they're being covered by the clouds because it doesn't quite work with shaders, but it allows you to set different locations with different angles, different colors, and also names. You can click on them to instantly snap to them, or you can simply snap to them using your cursor when you have the overlay on. This makes it really easy to access certain teleportation locations. I also want to mention that for essentially the latter 75% of this project, it was kind of a joint effort between me and a friend of mine named Mike Horrific. We both invested equal blood, sweat, and tears into the project, so make sure to go check out her channel in the description, and also she'll probably upload a block-by-block tutorial at some point, which at some point you should be able to find in a card above. If you want to mess around with this device on your own, or build it in your own world, you can find a world download in the description. Right here, there's a chest that contains the book and quill containing all the angles for all the locations I've set up, as well as a spyglass. You can also find teleports to all the locations on command blocks in the sky up there, so that when you need to set up the machines, when you first start up the world, you actually can. If you use this thing on your own, make sure to read the incredibly detailed instruction manual in the description. It's really important. You can also find the reference angles there. Anyways, to conclude, I guess we can do one final demonstration. We can head over to the, let's go to the jungle, for example. If you liked today's video, make sure to check out all the other content that I've produced on my channel. I tend to make a lot more sillier, useless stuff, but it should still be pretty interesting to you. Also, make sure to subscribe if you want to see any of the future projects that I'm working on, as well as checking out the Discord, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!